Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into today's Reddit posts. Entitled stepfather stalking us by watching our outside home surveillance camera that he installed. Me and my stepdad have always been quite close. He's always been supportive and always been there for me more than my own father has been. Regardless, me and my girlfriend moved into my grandmother's house just over a year ago to help her around the house a little more. Me and my girlfriend both having relatively nice cars parked on the driveway, I asked if he would install a camera onto the house to keep an eye on them. He did this for me. I offered him the money and he didn't charge me anything. I didn't think anything of it until last autumn. I'd gone to visit my friend for the day who lives about 80 miles away. I'd come home about 7 p.m. and as my grandma went to bed, me and my girlfriend decided to go out for a bit of a date night. I got a phone call from my stepdad around 9:30 p.m. asking if I was okay, as I wasn't home yet. I straight away knew he'd checked the camera to see if I was home yet. I was fuming and told him I don't appreciate being clocked in and out. He took offense to this and thought I was being ungrateful. Since then, he hasn't really made any comments. But then a couple of months ago, me and my girlfriend had a baby. She was in the hospital for a while, and he kept checking when I was home from the hospital each evening. I knew because the minute my car got onto the drive, it was, "Don't forget to put blank in your car for tomorrow." Or if I stayed out for a while later, I'd get, "When you get home, can you such and such?" Which suggests he knew I wasn't. I had the odd digs I didn't want him watching me. So a few weeks ago, he made it quite obvious he'd checked if I was in before coming to visit my mom. Fuming, I unplugged the camera from the internet so that I could only access it when I needed to. I wanted to see how long it would take him to notice a problem. But he's instead been in a funny mood for a few weeks. Today he came to inspect as it had gone down, and I openly and honestly told him I appreciate what he's done for us, but I don't want him stalking us. He threw a massive tantrum, accused me of being ungrateful, and tried guilt-tripping me and saying it's only because he cares. He then deleted it from his access, or so he claimed anyway. I don't mind him having access. It helps in keeping an eye on my grandma if she ventures out or anything. But I'm a grown adult who doesn't need clocking in and out. It massively breaches data protection. It's weird. And what winds me up the most is him having a tantrum about it. So first off, that is pretty damn creepy and intrusive. But based off the info you gave us, OP, it doesn't seem like he has bad intentions or anything. But he is definitely overstepping boundaries. And you say you don't mind him having access, but at the same time, you obviously kinda do. At least when he's being overly intrusive like this. So at the end of the day, it really is up to you what you want to do about it. If you want him to still have access for extra security for your grandma and whatnot, then go for it. But if time goes on and he continues with this kind of behavior, then it's your choice. You have every right to remove his access, even if he guilt trips you. Entitled woman tries to take my wife's accessible parking spot, then gets angry when I call her out. I'm a 42-year-old trans woman and I live in an apartment building with a reserved accessible parking spot for my wife, who is wheelchair bound. Yesterday I came home to find a red Chevy Silverado parked in our spot. There was no disabled placard or license plate tag, so I knocked on some neighbors' doors to see if they knew who it belonged to. No one answered. I decided to make a fake parking ticket, citing the violation as parking in a reserved accessible space without proper placard. Right after I put the fake parking ticket on the truck's windshield, the owner of the truck came out and asked me what I was doing. I told her she was parked in our spot, and she rudely said she was working for building management, and if I had a problem, I needed to take it up with them. I told her it wasn't her spot and she needed to move, but again, she refused. I went back upstairs and into my apartment. A minute later, I heard a knock at the door, and opened it to find the fake parking ticket in the door jamb, with their reply written on the bottom. They had written some transphobic and homophobic slurs on it. I went back outside with my phone to try and take a picture of their license plate. However, an angry-looking young man was at the bottom of the stairs. He told me I needed to watch what I say to his mama. He said I didn't look disabled. I told him it is my wife who cannot walk. He then asked where my car was, implying he wanted to do some damage to it. He called me the N-word, then misgendered me and was acting aggressive. Feeling unsafe and not wanting to escalate the situation further, I told them to have a nice day and went back inside the house. I called the building management, who expressed their condolences and said that I should call the police. I called the police, who said they'd send an officer when they could. 20 minutes later, an officer called, and said they drove by, but by then the people had already left. I'm so angry and upset by this whole experience. I can't believe someone would be so entitled and disrespectful, especially to someone who is disabled. I'm also disappointed that the police didn't do more to help. I am posting this story in the hopes that it will raise awareness of the issue of accessible parking. It's not just a convenience for people with disabilities, it's a necessity. If you see someone parked in an accessible spot without a placard or tag, please don't be afraid to say something. It could make a big difference to someone's life. Thanks for reading. Sorry to hear that, OP. It's never fun having to deal with those kinds of people. Hopefully it's just a one-off thing and doesn't happen again. However, it is good that you let building management know. They seem supportive. Definitely keep them in the loop if anything happens again. But one thing is, I don't think writing a fake parking ticket was really a good idea. I imagine that kind of thing is probably technically illegal, and could come back to bite you if you're not careful. She's faking it. She's not having a seizure. She just doesn't want to work. I'm a 20-year-old female and I have a disorder called epilepsy. I was diagnosed at the age of 12 and have had problems with it since. Different kinds of seizures in weird places like the shower, in the middle of class, during some of my streams, etc. I grew up in a small village that was very popular for tourists. The nature was gorgeous and there were so many things you could do at any time of the year. During summers, you could take different hikes and stuff. When I was about 15 to 16 years old, I moved to a different city, away from my parents though. Not because of bad parenting, because of my college location. Of course, I did visit them sometimes, like during vacations, breaks like summer, winter, you get the point. During one of my summer break visits, I decided to take on a job, to see what it was actually like to work. My dad helped me get one by contacting one of his former employees, who was now the boss of a restaurant located on the top of a mountain with a beautiful view. They sold pretty simple foods there that I could make while working for them. The staff there were really nice to me, and we all did a little of everything because of the small amount of workers. Sometimes I was the chef, and then a few hours later I would be taking orders, or be the bartender for those who wanted non-alcoholic drinks. Little of everything. This restaurant was pretty packed during the summer, and almost every table would be taken for at least 4 to 5 hours straight, so we had a lot to do when it came to the food and serving it. It was pretty stressful for little me, since I don't do good with loud noises and packed locations. PTSD. Kind of a nightmare in my opinion, but if I was an employee there, then I was going to work. My boss was very nice to me though, since she knew my dad and my diagnosis. We did have breaks, but they weren't more than 5 minutes long, because of everything that needed to be done in this restaurant while it was open. One day a family of 6 walked in while the entire restaurant was packed with people. So much that some of our customers were sitting on the balcony floor while eating. They seemed fine with it though. After about 7 minutes of me serving food and taking orders, giving it to the chef, I heard a super quiet clearing of a throat and turned around to see where it came from. It was from the family, whom were now standing in front of the exit door, blocking it. I took a deep breath and walked up to them with a smile on my face. "Hello ma'am, She rudely interrupts me, saying, "Oh my gosh, finally, you are so slow." At first, I was shocked, but then asked her if she needed help with anything. To which she responded with, "Well, duh, me and my family need a table pronto, so that we can sit down and get some food. We've had a very long walk and need to rest, especially my kids." She points to her kids, who look to be around 10 to 15 years old, and just looking at their phones. Even the husband was, not giving a single shiz about what is happening. Well? At this point, Karen was right in my face, beet red, and looking like she is going to murder me through poison, with the huge amount of perfume radiating from her clothes. I backed away a few steps and said, "I'm sorry ma'am, but we're packed at this moment. I can't give you a table right now. If you want to though, you can wait outside the restaurant until I can." If it was even possible, Karen became even more red, and screamed at me, "Let me see your manager, you are being so rude." I started panicking, but did as she said, and started looking for my boss, who was currently washing some dishes in the back. I ran over to her and explained the situation. She told me to stay here and that she would handle Karen while I took on the dishes. After a few minutes of washing, my head started to hurt, and I was feeling like I needed to sit down or I would collapse at any moment. I knew what was happening, and as quickly as I could took out my phone. I messaged my dad that I was having a seizure and that I needed help because it was getting worse. My dad sent me a message that he'd informed my boss and was on the way here to pick me up, since I have no way of controlling my body and needed to go home or to the nearest hospital. which was about 5 hours away from where I was. My boss soon came back and told me that I could go home, and she would handle my work today. When Dad arrived, he took my hand so that I had support, and we started walking towards the exit, where Karen and her family were still standing, with Karen glaring daggers towards my dad now. Then she decided to make the most stupid decision I have ever heard or seen. Karen walked up to my dad and started yelling at him. "What are you doing dragging her out of the restaurant? She's supposed to be working to get my family a table. Her boss will fire her for doing this." My boss walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, even though this is none of your business, I have allowed her to leave because my employee is having a seizure and needs to go home for some rest." My dad ignored the argument and we kept walking towards the exit. Then, without any kind of notice, Karen grabbed me and started shaking me to prove that I wasn't having a seizure. My dad became furious and pushed her back, hiding me behind him out of Karen's reach. "Don't you ever touch my daughter again. I will have you f***ing arrested if you even try to talk to her." My dad shouted extremely loud at Karen so that everyone in the restaurant could hear us. It became completely quiet and Karen's face was as white as a ghost because she just realized what she had done. My dad then walked out carrying me in his arms to protect me, since I was completely helpless now with how long my seizure had been going on for. A few days later, my boss told me that Karen and her family have now been banned from the place, and if they try to come close, my boss will call the cops on them. And I can understand why, because what Karen had done could actually land her in jail. She had attacked a minor who had a disability. Yikes. Yeah, this Karen doesn't seem to realize that there are more types of seizures than just ones that involve spasms. But nonetheless, no matter what someone says, grabbing and shaking them, yeah, she actually got off easy just getting banned and not having police involved. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to drop a like, I'd really appreciate it. And even more so if you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So I'm out of here. Have an awesome day, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time.